DuckTales is probably one of the most popular Disney cartoon shows of the late 80s. I remember my preschool days catching reruns of DuckTales on the Disney Afternoon lineup, as well as my later years in catching it on Disney Channel and Toon Disney, back when they were at their prime. Today we can watch it, its underrated movie, and its inferior revival on Disney+. But you didn't come here for a retrospective on a cartoon, this is a video game review. Tonight on Gaming Delight, we take a look at DuckTales for the Nintendo Entertainment System. DuckTales was released for the NES on September 14, 1989 in North America, January 26, 1990 in Japan, and December 14, 1990 in Europe. The game was developed and published by Capcom as the first Disney project they developed. Now I know what you're thinking, what about Mickey Mousecapade, which came out earlier? Well, Capcom may have published the game, but only in North America. In Japan, publishing was handled by developer Hudson Soft. Handling development for DuckTales were staff members who had previously worked on the Mega Man series. Tokuro Fujiwara, producer of Mega Man 2, served as producer for DuckTales. Yoshihiro Sakaguchi, sound programmer for the first two Mega Man games, carried his role over to DuckTales. And of course, Keiji Inafune, Mega Man's character designer, handled graphic design for DuckTales and also served as director. The game goes like this. Donald Duck's uncle, Scrooge McDuck, the richest duck in the world, is globe hopping for 5 valuable treasures to add to his fortune. To assist him are his grandnephews Huey, Dewey, and Louie, their friend Webby Vanderquack, her grandmother Mrs. Beakley, and Scrooge's loyal pilot Launchpad McQuack. To start the game off, you get to choose from one of 3 difficulty levels. In each stage, Scrooge uses his trusty cane as a weapon against enemies. He can bat them with the cane like a golf club, or use it as a pogo stick to jump on them, and make his way through spike-filled paths. The pogo jump is also useful in reaching high spots. There are treasures hidden throughout each level that award Scrooge money, and ice cream to restore a hit point. A cake can restore him to full health. Scrooge dolls give extra lives. From time to time, Mrs. Beakley will show up to give Scrooge a dessert to replenish his health. The hard-to-find stars increase his health capacity. There are magic coins in the easy and normal levels that grant Scrooge temporary invincibility. There are 5 different stages to choose from, almost similar to Mega Man: the Amazon, Transylvania, the African mines, the Himalayas, and the Moon. In the Amazon, Scrooge must traverse through the tropical rainforest while avoiding numerous enemies, including killer bees, spiders, spear-throwing natives, gorillas, and deadly plants. These plants can't be killed by a pogo jump. The boss of this stage is the Incan King. His jumps are easily predictable. Just pogo jump before he hits the ground and hit him in the head enough times to beat him, thus claiming the scepter of the Incan King. In Transylvania, beware of the zombies, invincible ghosts, mummies, and the Beagle Boys. There are 8 mirrors which can warp you from one spot to another. Issue 8 of Nintendo Power has a warp chart to assist you. Webby will warn you that Huey has been abducted by a Beagle Boy. Climb up the rope to her right, knock out the Beagle Boy, and rescue Huey, who notifies you of the illusion walls. One illusion wall contains a star that increases Scrooge's maximum health. The other, beneath Mirror B, hides 2 adjacent mirrors. Mirror D on the right takes you to Mirror H, and from there, make your way to the left to battle Magica De Spell. From time to time, Magica will take the form of a vulture that's often hard to pogo jump off of. It's recommended you stay close to her, and once she flies low enough, pogo off of her. Do it from behind as well, so as to avoid her lightning bolts. Beat Magica and you'll obtain the Coin of the Lost Realm. For the African mines, you need to go back to Transylvania to find the Skeleton Key, with which you can unlock the gateway to the mine. Warp through Mirror A, get the key, and warp through the mirror on the left to return to the control room, then return to the mines. This is one of 2 levels in which you'll find a hidden treasure to collect bonus money. Find where Mrs. Beakley is located, take your time to guzzle down some desserts to restore your health, then pogo from one jumping green duck to the next, and there, you'll find the treasure chest containing the hidden ring. The boss of this level is the King of the Terra Firmes, who rolls around the room either clockwise or counterclockwise, and can only be hit when he's hopping. Beat him, and you get the giant diamond of the inner earth. One thing I'd like to point out is that on the way to the boss, you'll find sort of a bit of cruelty in the minecart sequence. Huey, Dewey, and Louie wait for Scrooge in a cart, and when they finally meet their destination, Scrooge jumps out as the cart plummets into the pit. Did his nephews anticipate this and bring safety gear? Who knows? The Himalayas. This is the one I struggle with the most. You see, pogo jumping doesn't work in the snow, or Scrooge will get stuck for a few seconds. If you want a pogo, you gotta do it bouncing off enemies. After you fall down the fake snowbank, you can search for Bubba Duck, who is frozen in a block of ice. A pogo jump will set him free, and he'll show you where to find another life container. The stage's boss is, you guessed it, the Abominable Snowman, who unleashes falling snowballs upon Scrooge with a single wall punch. Just avoid the snowballs, then pogo off of him. Once you do that enough times, you get the crown of Genghis Khan. Finally, we have the moon. Pretty interesting music, but I can't show it to you in this video or I'll get a copyright claim. There's a second hidden treasure in this level, the golden plate. But to get there, you gotta pogo jump off of these spiked platforms, but it can be done. At the top left corner of the spaceship, pick up the UFO key so you can make your way to finding the remote control, and with the remote, you can summon Gizmo Duck, who will blast the wall blocking your path to the boss, Lunarat. Make sure you have the height advantage so you can pogo jump him 4 times to take him out and accumulate the green cheese of longevity. Now before we get to the final boss, let me remind you of a few extra ways to earn more money in case you want to see the best ending. If you run into Launchpad McQuack in any of the levels, you can ask him to give you a ride back to Duckburg so you can bank the money you picked up, then play a level again to collect more. If you meet up with Launchpad while the 10,000th digit of your score is a 7, Launchpad will take Scrooge all the way up to the clouds, and it's your job to guide him through this bonus stage as Gyro Gearloose sends diamonds from his plane down for you to pick up. Now it's on to the final boss. Once you beat all 5 stages, Scrooge's rival, Flintheart Glomgold, has stolen all 5 of Scrooge's treasures and sends him a message to come to Dracula Duck Manor in Transylvania if he wants them back. To get there, you have to follow the same path you took to battle Magica. The final boss is Dracula Duck, who is quite the challenge. He's so high up, you'll have to pogo jump off of the bats he sends out to hit him. Repeat this process until you beat him. But there's still one chore to deal with, catching up to Glomgold to retrieve the stolen treasures. Magica will fly him up to the top of the tower, and you have to race him there by climbing up the rope. If you reach the top first, Scrooge gets his treasures back, and you beat the game. Now there are 3 different endings. The good ending is the standard ending in which Scrooge celebrates beside a gold-filled treasure chest. The best ending requires you to collect at least $10 million. If so, the ending will show Scrooge wearing a crown and sitting on top of a large pile of gold. The bad ending requires you to beat the game with no money, but this is the toughest to accomplish. Why? Because in order to lose money, you have to spend money by pressing the select button to refill your health at the cost of $3 million. And to get to 0 exactly, you have to have an exact multiple of $3 million before you beat Dracula Duck. In this ending, Scrooge stands alone with no money and will have to use his treasures to get back on his web feet. Upon the game's release, reviews were glowing. Electronic Gaming Monthly gave it a score of 32 out of 40, calling it, quote, the best game ever made for the young player. And like I said earlier, it was featured in issue 8 of Nintendo Power, featuring 12 pages of secrets to get through the game. In the fall of 1990, DuckTales was ported to the Game Boy. The only changes made to this version is the lack of color and the warbled soundtrack. Plus, the layout was altered so as to accommodate the lower resolution of the Game Boy. Nevertheless, it's really well made for an early Game Boy title. Both versions of DuckTales went on to sell a total of over 3 million copies worldwide. The NES version sold over 1.6 million copies, and the Game Boy version sold over 1.4 million. It became Capcom's best-selling game for each system, even outselling each Mega Man game. A major factor? It's Disney. In 1993, Capcom released a sequel to DuckTales for both platforms, with Make Software developing the Game Boy port. We can go over this game in another video, if I ever get a copy of the expensive NES version and/or the way cheaper Famicom version. In 2013, DuckTales Remastered was released for a variety of platforms. I have the Wii U version. Just about everything was improved from the NES game: orchestral music, graphics that closely matched the original cartoons, and voice acting. Most of the original voice cast reprised their roles in this game. Plus, the storyline was extended, and 2 more levels were added. This too can be covered in a future review. Both NES DuckTales games were included in the Disney Afternoon Collection for PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. How about a port for the Switch? So what do I think of DuckTales? It's definitely my favorite among NES games based on a cartoon series. Sorry to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Plus, I consider it to be my favorite Disney video game of all time. I loved the jumping mechanics of this game. Scrooge McDuck practically put Mario to shame at the time. I only recently experienced the game a year ago when I picked it up for my collection. It only took me a day to beat the game, after taking tips from Generation Gap Gaming's DuckTales video. Thanks for the advice, Tyler. And you'll be happy to know that DuckTales on the NES and Game Boy is inexpensive. A loose copy of either version will go for around $20. And feel free to tell me what you think of the game in the comments below. Thanks again for watching Gaming Delight. Until next time, happy gaming!